Hi guys, welcome back to Blue Moon Rising TV. I'm Paul, you are...
Alex.
And together we are Blue Moon Rising TV. Oh, I'm actually going to keep running with that now. Can't believe I just did that. Right guys, it's the morning after City demolished Borussia Monchengladbach.
Next time I lead on the video.
I'm never allowed to do another video. Right guys, yeah, we've just beat Borussia Monchengladbach 4-0 in our first proper Champions League game. And it's another victory for Pep Guardiola's Manchester City.
When's it going to run out? It feels weird watching City, and I'm actually going into games feeling confident, feeling upbeat. It just seems every week we're just getting that little bit better, and it feels like if this is Manchester City in a work in progress, I can't wait until we're finished. It's
that thing, isn't it? Yeah, when we can't say that we've clicked yet because teams don't click this early on, do they?
Well, I think this is something we've been sold as football fans, is that a team can't gel and it takes a season. And certainly over United's, they're all saying, well, it'll take a season for Mourinho to fit his style in. Pep Guardiola doesn't need a season, he needs 5-6 games. But, Monchengladbach is a really interesting one because they haven't really changed too much. It's a very similar side to the Monchengladbach that we played last season, and look at the difference.
Herman the German wasn't playing. Their best player, apparently, Herman, he was out, Herman the German. Just got to get that in there.
And obviously, I think they actually got beaten at the weekend in German football, so they're not in the best of form, granted. But last season, how much difficulty did we have with Mönchengladbach? And this season, I know the away legs are going to be much tougher, but at home, we looked a little bit stronger. We looked a lot stronger.
We seem to brush them to one side, which is, I don't remember the last time we can really say that we did that to anyone in Europe, so it's great to see. Anyway, we're going to go over the fan cams from last night with fresh eyes and dig down into them a little bit. So the first one was a video that went down very well. If you've not seen it, check out the full one on YouTube. It's Andrew Bucknall. I think Walter asks him one question and then he goes off on one for 3 minutes, which is great. But this is just a little taster of his fan cam.
It was two fingers up to the media, all the experts. Bravo tonight, class. One save, world class to his left. We let a lot of them in last season, not having to go at Joe Hart, and his little flick over the striker, cool as a cucumber. Just brilliant. Sane coming on.
So he brings up a couple of issues there. One is Claudio Bravo. So obviously a lot of attention after the derby because he was undoubtedly at fault, or there's miscommunication at least if we're going to sort of give him not be really critical of him, maybe there was miscommunication between him and the Stones, but he got a lot of stick. But last night he looked the business, didn't he?
Yeah, certainly. I think he's someone who, the Manchester derby, it's a tough first day at school, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even for someone who's experienced as Bravo. But I think he came into his own last night against Mönchengladbach. He looked assured when called upon, and exactly the sort of thing that we needed in a goalkeeper. I think Andy touches on it there as well when he talks about the save that maybe Joe Hart wouldn't have made to his near left-hand side. And we all talk about, someone in a fan cam at the weekend said that he's a midfielder, not a goalkeeper. But we forget, not only is he good with his feet, he's also very good with his hands.
You wouldn't believe it, would you, for a goalkeeper? But even Pep Guardiola's goalkeepers can use their hands, funnily enough. Another issue which we're going to go on to there was, Andrew mentioned the media and the sort of the view of Manchester City in general. Now, some extra news has come to light over the last couple of days about Manchester City's coefficient rating in Champions League dropping. And so it's another reason why City fans are disgruntled with UEFA. Now, this is a big talking point. All the City fans all over Twitter, Facebook, everything, forums, everyone's talking about this. Should Manchester City fans boo the Champions League anthem like we have done for the last couple of seasons? Pep Guardiola seems to be of the opinion that he wishes that we didn't. He wants us to get behind the team and give them all the support so they can get right to the Champions League final. Alex, do you think that we should stop booing the Champions League anthem at City? I
think it's ill-advised. I think maybe it's not the best idea to rattle UEFA's cage, but I'm going to be honest, I boo the anthem. I am one of the boo boys. I think that UEFA, they need to know that they've had the rule and the roost over football in Europe, and we should be thankful to a lot for UEFA. That said, they don't get to rule it with an iron fist, and I think that they regularly, and not just the Manchester City, show a complete disregard for the fans that make the game what it is. I think a disregard for certain clubs, and I think there definitely is a favouritism to that elite 8-9 clubs. I'm talking about the Milan clubs, Juventus. I'm talking about Madrid and Barcelona. There is a favouritism towards those clubs, and I think quite often to the clubs that are supported by those very, very senior at UEFA. I think a number of reasons. I think that they don't really take the anti-racism thing seriously. I think at Manchester City we saw that when the monkey chants by the Portuguese fans against Mario Balotelli were given a smaller ban than the ban on Manchester City for starting a game 47 seconds less. So that shows that UEFA, they don't care about the fans, they don't care about stopping racism, but they do care about the big advertisers, the big sponsors getting their adverts out 47 seconds late. I feel, to be honest,
they could have got another advert in there. They should have thought about that. That's extra money for them, isn't it?
You know, and don't get me wrong, they are, you know, they are business and they've got to make their money. I've got no problem with that, but I just feel there are bigger issues to chase. And I think it's when last season, a Champions League game, I think it was the Juventus home game. You know, there were traffic delays all the way across Manchester. The trains were late. The trams were stopped. And Manchester City wanted to delay the game by 10 minutes, and UEFA wouldn't let that happen. That basically meant that Manchester City, we had, I know United fans loved it, we had 10,000 empty seats at kick-off, and that meant 10,000 fans who'd all paid 40, 50, 60 pounds to get in, missed the first 10, 15 minutes of a match that could have been delayed, but UEFA said no. Why? Because UEFA care more about their TV money than the actual fans, the real fans that bother to turn up.
There you have it. There is a history. I mean, I think it's worth going over all the different points of where City and UEFA have clashed. And it's so the racism incident. What else has there been?
Moscow, the away leg in Russia, banning Manchester City fans who'd done nothing wrong from a perfectly good away trip to Russia because the Russian fans had been racist. Yeah. And then what happened at the last minute? They let the Russian fans in.
Yeah, they tried telling everybody that they were all sponsors, yet there were probably about 1,000 people there. So, I mean, tell us, who is the one who has been punished in that situation because of something which Manchester City haven't done? We've been fined for fair play as well, despite us trying, and I think actually really being successful down to the letter of the law, following their word to the last letter. What else has there been? There's been case after case after case.
It just seems repeatedly, and it isn't just Manchester City as well. We're not the only club that boo the anthem.
Yeah, Barcelona fans boo the anthem as well, actually. I mean, there is a history, there have been proven cases of corruption at UEFA, and people have lost their jobs, and you know, we know in FIFA and UEFA how dirty it's been in the past. So they really need to clean their act up, and perhaps the only way that they're going to do it is by people publicly making fun of what is an institution that needs to clean its act up.
And I think as well, the new president looks interesting. I know they've had a bit of a shake-up at the very top. So maybe it is time to give UEFA a second chance, give them a few months, because you know there is a change of the guard at the top. It's almost like a new government.
But
maybe.
Literally yesterday, Alex, we have been punished because is it any coincidence that David Gill is on the board of UEFA, one of the advisors for how the new rules needed to be implemented, which means that Manchester City drop in their coefficiency. Manchester United, who haven't been in the competition for 2 out of the last 3 years, have suddenly jumped up because it's based more on what you've done in the last 50 years. Literally, winning competitions in the 60s is having more of an effect than us getting to a Champions League semi-final yesterday. Now, what world are we living in? And why? This is straight after we fought and we won, actually, to make it so that the pot that you're in the co-efficiency depends on where you finish in the league, which made it more fair. In fact, City have been done badly out of this last couple of seasons because we've not won the league, but still it's fairer, and it means that Leicester City are given a good chance as they deserve. But now it seems like we're going back to the dark ages of backhanders, of old money, and basically everyone looking down the noses at the new boys who are coming up like City.
Well, I'd be really interested to see where Leeds United and Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa, would they go into pot 2 or 3 because they've won the European Cup?
Well, do you know what? You're probably not a million miles away from how it is. Anyway, guys, that's how our sort of mini take on, although it was it wasn't a short one, but that's how roughly what we're thinking of UEFA. What do you think? Should City fans keep on banning? There's a good reason for it. We seem to have been punished left, right and centre. We don't seem to be getting a fair crack of the whip in the Champions League, and they need to know about it. But I know a lot of you will think otherwise and think like Pep Guardiola that we need to get behind the team. Let us know in the comments. It's a big talking point, and this is going to rumble on and on and on. Okay, we've got to move on now. Now we're going to talk about just exactly how good Manchester City were last night. So this is all positivity now. If you can play it.
I've said this every game this season under Pep Guardiola, but that was the best game I've seen from City. And every game we're getting better. Yeah. Every game the squad's coming together. Stones, Gundogan in there, Gundogan's debut, Sane's home debut, Champions League debut. Look, I've been there for ages.
So, every time City play, we get better and better and better. Would you say, Alex, that last night was Manchester City's best ever performance in the Champions League?
It's certainly up there. I think in terms of, I mean, how do you define exactly what the best performance? I think coming in and get up against Bayern Munich at the Allianz and coming back that second half was one of our finest moments in Europe. I think there were last season some real exceptional games. Sevilla away was exceptional.
Yeah, PSG. PSG, Kevin De Bruyne, sort of getting us through, putting us through that semi-final. There's lots of great points, but I'll put it to you that while they may be sticking the memory a little bit more than this game will, because I think we'll, 4-0, it was over arguably after the first half. It won't stick in the memory, but it was because of the very reason that we put the game to bed so early on. We've not been able to do that in the Champions League. I do not remember the last time. Sevilla away, we were good, very, very good. But I would say this was even more mature performance.
I think certainly from whistle to whistle, it's perhaps the most dominant we've been in the match where we've looked at a better side. And like I said at the top of the video, I think it's how much we've come from Monchengladbach last year to this year. And I think as well, a lot of the players that we've got perhaps maybe the Champions League isn't new anymore. We're a little bit used to being the favourites now, whereas I think last year that tag was a little bit more of an issue than it was. And it's interesting, obviously, Celtic getting a spanking from Barcelona on Tuesday night and us handing this down to Monchengladbach. Is it now a two-horse race with Barcelona? It's very early to say that. I think Celtic are going to fight for their lives in Glasgow when we go there, just because of the occasion. And I think, being England versus Scotland will give us a real game.
Yeah.
And that is a potential banana skin. But I don't think it's too arrogant to say that maybe it's just us and Barca now, just to try and get that top spot. And what
4-0, 4-0, that doesn't happen that often in Europe, that teams absolutely dominate. This is straight off the back of Barcelona winning 7-0. But we've never won by this kind of, margin before. This is new for us. And I know you're saying, maybe we've grown into the competition a bit more. I know we got to a semi-final last year, but we never played that comfortably and that mature, I would say. For me, it was absolutely refreshing. And it's the first time in a long time that I've gone in Champions League game, I've fully enjoyed it without sort of thinking, oh my God, how are we going to throw this away? I felt very comfortable at half-time. I felt that even if we would have shipped a goal, we still would have put it to bed. So it's great to see a team that's acting so mature. We can mix it up a little bit, put different players in there, and yet, it doesn't really matter. It seems like the sum of the team is better than, the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, both JL and Andy both talked about Leroy Sané as well, who's just, he's another one of these Iheanachos that doesn't seem bothered by the occasion, doesn't seem bothered. It looks like he's playing in the park, and he's just got that whole cocktail of technical ability, but also speed. And he looks like he's got a little bit of intelligence about him. And that goal that he set up for Iheanacho was almost like FIFA, when you just run, you're weaving in and out of players and you run right up to the line and a cheeky little pass back for tapping at the line.
Yeah, it was like FIFA-esque in the fact that players were just throwing themselves in, committing themselves, and he was just cheekily taking it back, going round him, little nutmeg, and then a goal. So he's already got an assist to his name, which is great, and he looked a handful against United as well. Gundogan as well, what a debut. What an absolutely intelligent, mature, dominant, composed performance. I'm running out of words to say about Ilkay Gundogan and how important he's going to be for this season.
What is great about Ilkay Gundogan as well is that he's got all of these...
facial hair.
That is good. But besides his facial hair, Paul, he's also got that. He's exactly what a centre midfielder should be. Disciplined enough to get back, intelligent enough to go forward. He's got a decent shot on him. He's creative enough. He knows exactly which pass to play. But on top of it all as well, he's quite hard working as well, which you don't see often too much.
He's very industrious.
A midfielder that is that complete. And I think not only would he fit into a Guardiola team, I think he'd fit into a Mourinho team or a Big Sam team or a Tony Pulis team, because he is that versatile. Yeah. And it's a lot to say from one appearance in a Manchester City shirt, but what we've seen at him at Dortmund as well. And I think we've got ourselves a heck of a player there.
This is a player who I think Guardiola intends to build the team around. I think he is that player who's not. You think about what makes up a Pep Guardiola player: intelligent, doesn't lose the ball, works hard. There are three boxes which are very much ticked by Ilkay Gundogan, and I think we should get very, very excited about what this man is going to bring to us this season. And I also said, I was on Twitter duties last night, so any silly mistakes on there, they were down to me, not Stephen, don't worry. But I said that I think across all competition, this is a player who didn't score many goals last season. I think he could easily get double figures across all competitions, maybe up to 15. That's maybe asking a bit too much. But he should have scored last night. We'll let him off that because he was just so great everywhere else.
Yeah.
How excited are you about him?
Oh, buzzing. I think it's almost like a new signing in October, isn't it, really, I think, for him to pick up. I'd be interested to see if he starts on the weekend, though.
Silva dropped out, so maybe if Silva's fit, will he get in there? Does he need the game time? Against Bournemouth, maybe Pep will be willing to mess things about a bit. We'll see about that. Okay, let's move on to the last fan cam, which is just full of praise for our manager.
You talk about Guardiola. Do you think it's the Pep effect that's actually bringing our players to such a high level?
Mostly, but I mean, you've got to think about the individual players' performance. I mean, Sterling last year was a bit hit and miss. I said last week he's been a different player. His style of play is absolutely electric. He's you know, with some of his runs he's been making, and he's got the end product this year as well, which has been good. Aguero, if he can stay off the injuries, he's going to be massive. You know, you've got to think about it. When isn't Aguero big for us? And then you know, the new additions, you get your Gundogan's coming in, Sané, burst of pace. It's, you know, loads of contributing factors, but Guardiola's the biggest. Yeah.
I mean, he says it all, doesn't he? I mean, there is a lot of individual talent and brilliance across the team, but they all seem to be playing together because of one man, Pep Guardiola. What have you got to say about the man?
I mean, well, we've said so much about him on the channel, and I don't want to wax lyric about him any more than I already have done, but it's, you know, we've got this whole smorgasbord of talent, and the one thing that has brought them all together, you know, I look at all the young players that we signed this summer as well, you know.
Gabriel like, Jesus isn't coming into the squad until January as well.
Exactly.
That is a... We're not going to need to sign anyone in January because we're going to have this little burst of little injection of pace and just something new to throw into the mix.
It's also as well, I think we know as well that Manchester City, we are still a work in progress and we are a growing brand. And I think, you know what, Moreno and Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, these really talented young players, do we think that they agreed to sign for Manchester City because they were familiar with Main Road and Colin Bell? I'm going to be honest, I don't think they were. You know, it makes me laugh when Paulinho signed for Tottenham. He said, I always dreamed of playing with Tottenham Hotspur. Paulinho was 26 when he signed for Tottenham Hotspur. That means that he grew up in Brazil in the 90s. Do we really think he was a Tottenham Hotspur fan? I'm fully aware that these players didn't come to Manchester City because they wanted to play at the Etihad. They wanted to come for Pep Guardiola. Yeah, simple. You know, and we can compete with Real Madrid and Juventus to sign players, but Pep Guardiola is that factor. And I just get the impression that he comes with this massive reputation, and some people think that's deserved, some people don't, but he comes with that reputation, and you get the impression that when he walks into the dressing room, everyone listens and everyone is desperate to impress him. And you see the way that players like De Bruyne and Aguero that have got nothing to prove, the way that they look at him, and it's amazing that authority that he has. And I think that's something that maybe Pellegrini didn't have. And I still think Pellegrini is a great manager, and I think that Pellegrini is a 4-star manager that we have a lot to be thankful for. And I think that maybe a lot of the criticism that Pellegrini got while he was here wasn't deserved. But I think Guardiola is that cut above, and I think that he has that reputation, and he has that authority, and he has the ability to match that. And look at how we're playing. We're playing like a team that believes and has full confidence. And what we had a lot last season was players looking like they didn't want to give the ball to Wilfred Bonney, and they didn't want to give the ball to Sterling. And even Navas, you got the impression that when we ran out of ideas and Navas came off the bench at 70 minutes, you saw one or two players go, oh, really, again? And actually this year, everybody just looks so much faith, and they just, you know, again, not to use two FIFA references, but they don't look like individual players. They look like they're all being controlled by the same controller, and they all play in the same way, and they just slot together. And players like Kolarov, who no journalist, no Twitter or whatever is talking about how good Kolarov was last night.
No.
You know, Kolarov is a player that I was saying Kolarov out. I thought it was time, and yet he set up the first goal at the derby. He was awesome. It's just like, where did that come from? I don't even remember what the question was, but Pep's just great.
Pep's amazing is the answer. Who cares what the question is? But I think you're right. I mean, we knew that Pep was going to mix things up, but did we expect it to be to this extent? I mean, we might have expected to see Yaya Toure gone, and you know what I mean? After watching last night, the last thing in the world I would have liked to see was Yaya Toure. I mean, no disrespect to what he did for the club. He won us a lot. He was, 3 seasons ago, he's how many goals did he get to his name? It was ridiculous. Getting free kicks, scoring left, right and centre. But he has not put in the work the last 2 seasons. I don't care about your reputation. I'll always remember him as a great player, but your reputation now means nothing at this moment. And the last thing I would have liked to have seen was somebody like that who wasn't going to pull their weight. And Pep Guardiola isn't going to allow that. So every player knows, I do not care who you are. I do not care what you've done. all I care about is you giving 100% to this club. And even if the fans are getting behind you like they did with Joe Hart, I don't care. Because you've got to, it was almost, I'm not saying he would do this because this would be probably too reckless, but it was almost like Joe Hart was sent out and that's like a warning to everybody else. Don't pull your weight. But I don't think they're playing with fear though, you know, at the same time. I think there's very much a good ambience there. And I don't feel like it's a Jose Mourinho team where in the next 5 minutes, all it takes is somebody's head to go down and the whole team, loses its confidence.
I think the difference between Joe Hart and Yaya Toure is I think that, because I look at Yaya and go, well actually, he's like, in that position, you've got Fernandinho and Fernando, who've both been sublime under Pep. Then you've got Gundogan, who's coming in, and I'm sure Pep will want to make the most of him. Then you've got Fabian Delph. Then you've got Alex Garcia. Just looking at Yaya for that centre midfield, it's like 5th or 6th choice. And I'd rather see Delph play than Yaya, because even though Yaya is perhaps a better player all round and just has more natural technical ability, is that you know that Fabian Delph works his bollocks off. Yeah. And you know that Fabian Delph would give anything to get some game time. Do you get that with Yaya? No, you don't. And as a fan, you always want to see the players that want to be there. The difference between Joe and Yaya is that I know that Joe wants to play. You get the impression that I have no doubt that clubs will have come in for Yaya Toure this summer, and you get the impression that Yaya's gone, do I want to play in China or do I want to live in my massive house in Cheshire and get paid 200 grand a week? He's probably sitting in Cheshire and not playing, and that's depressing.
Yeah.
And I also think with Joe,
on
what's
the phone
interesting
with his agent
is in the 2 appearances that Joe Hart has made, he has averaged a pass completion rate of 87%.
Right.
That's the one for England and the one for Torino. So maybe Joe's actually, maybe had his fallout with Pep Guardiola and wanted to say, no, this is how I play and you've got to deal with it. And maybe now he's playing mid-table football in Italy, he might be rethinking, and maybe it isn't the end of Joe Hart yet.
I'm inclined to disagree with you. I don't want people to start thinking that Joe Hart is just on a little, he's not a 21-year-old goalkeeper. You know what I mean? He's at the prime of his career, and I don't think at that point in your career you're going to look away to come back again. But anyway, guys, there's so many talking points there. It was a great game, and what else can we say? We've said everything there is to say. Guys, we're going to do our preview for Bournemouth shortly. We're going to pick our team. We're going to do all that, so make sure you get tuned for that. That'll be out tomorrow morning first thing. In the meantime, drop a like on the video, get involved in the conversation, subscribe to Blue Moon Rising TV, and we'll see you soon.